Warriors and Sherry. You are awesome. You were here as soon as I put this up, I think, 3:03. And then well, it was right around there. I think it was about 3:15 actually, maybe when I said it for 4:30. And you said, "Hi, I'm back at 3:30." But maybe you're in a time zone where right now, because I'm at 4:31 here in Ohio. And hello, hello. So happy to be here with you guys today. Let's go over the basics. Please make sure you're still subscribed. If you are subscribed, check and make sure that you are. And if you're not, consider it. It's just a little press of a button that is no commitment, costs zero, takes almost zero effort, and it does the channel a great service. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you, whether you hit that button or not. I just appreciate you being here. Share my videos if you think they're intelligent or interesting or stupid or any of that. That's cool. Um, Turn on your notification bell to ring because you just never know when I'm going to come on live. I try to do my lives at the beginning of the day, but I'm just lucky to get them, period. Like last night, it wasn't until almost 11 o'clock at night. And today it's getting to be evening, 4:30. But I'm here and you're here maybe. So one more little routine thing. Hit your thumb. I just love showing off that funny statue molding type of thumb. I'm going to set it down over here. Then I'll lose track of it, just throwing it on the floor. And as you guys know, the chakra tower is coming into full force. So as you watch your true crime, you should be getting an adjustment psychologically, spiritually. I mean, I'm kidding, but there's truth to every joke. I just think it's cool. I love it. I've been studying to get my yoga teacher certification, which I think I'm going to get it in about 16 or 17 days from now, unless something dramatic happens, which hopefully that won't be the case. So yeah, thanks so much for joining me, you guys. I came on and did a live last night because I was just dying to get on and discuss a couple of things with you. Mica, Kylie, Kendrick Johnson, who I haven't mentioned in a very long time, and how apropos, because we do have Juneteenth coming up. Anybody who's not familiar, I can fill you in a little bit because I did some research on it last night and this morning. It's only been a thing since 2021, and I know there's some controversy about it. I don't want to get into all that. I don't want to get into the politics, and it's grotesque what I learned about the area that Kendrick Johnson is from. Jackie Bushable, hello, 4:33 here. So, you guys, I knew that there was something to do with Kendrick Johnson in that area that he's from, Loudon County, if I'm saying it correctly. It's a funny word to say, but that county is the site of some of the most despicable lynchings in the history of lynchings. So, like I said, I don't want to get into political issues. To me, this is not political. It's humanitarian. And these people were victimized back then in that town. Black people were unalived routinely, viciously. And I'd say that in my estimation that was continuing when Kendrick Johnson was unalived viciously in his high school gymnasium in the middle of a flipping school day, you guys. Like, it is unbelievable. This happened in 2013. Is that right? Or no, before that? Did it happen 11 years ago? I have all my notes, so many notes. And I try just to go off the top of my head, but then I like to refer to my notes to make sure that I have some accuracy. And if I make mistakes, you can correct me or I'll try to correct myself. An hour behind, Sherry. Hello, Fred. Nice to see you. Thanks so much for being here, you guys. So, yeah, I have a lot to talk about with Mica. I have some I want to discuss with Kendrick Johnson, and I have some I want to discuss about with my own self. If you caught last night's live, I ridiculously forgot until the very end to share with you that I found out the day before yesterday that my biological father is deceased, that he passed away last summer in Hawaii, which I remember, if you're a regular watcher, I had an intuition of that. I thought it was very possible he could have passed away in the Lahaina fires. I don't know if that's what it was or not. He was 82 years old, but that was good news to me simply because it's a relief to know that the world's a safer place. I mean, who in the world tries to take the life of their 11-year-old and 14-year-old daughters that they fathered and raised that entire time? I mean, almost the entire time from the time that we were born. My parents were very unstable, shall we say, and their relationship was very volatile. He was your typical narcissist. My mom was a bit of a narcissist too, but not like him, not by any stretch. And she got out of the marriage and was just happy that she got out alive and didn't think that he would ever do anything to hurt the children. And for the longest time, he didn't, because he had sole custody of us since I was 5 until I was probably like 13. So he continued to have sole custody of us for a couple of years after the incident with the carbon monoxide poisoning. So, I've discussed it openly and freely on my channel to some extent, and I was waiting for the day to know that he was no longer alive so that I wouldn't have to concern myself with, basically poking the bear, I like to say. I didn't want to invite him in to debate the issue because it's not debatable, but that's what gaslighters do. And that's the last thing any of us need, is to be gaslit from the person who tried to freaking unalive us when we were kids and then tried to play it off and pretend that everybody was too stupid to know the truth. And I mean, in a sense, I knew the truth that night. I couldn't really allow myself to think it and believe it and embrace it until it was, I think, 11 or 12 years to the date on the anniversary that it just kind of all, the stars aligned, and it just suddenly was clear. I was in the middle of a work day. I was driving across town. I did home care providing for elderly and disabled people. And I was going from one client's home to another. It was right after I finished my bachelor's degree. And it was January of whatever year that was, probably 91, I think, January of 91. And all of a sudden, I just realized it wasn't an accident. And it completely unnerved me. Like, I was just instantly unhinged, and I drove straight home. And fortunately, my husband was there. We were engaged at the time, living in sin. Fortunately, he was home, and I was just like shaking, and I told him what I had just realized, and he was very soothing and reassuring. And he was like, "You have to call your sister." And I was like, "Yeah, you're right. I have to call my sister." She was in New Hampshire. Did I say I was in Olympia, Washington? Anyway, it was 1991. So, we barely had like voicemail systems back then. They were just called answering machines, right? And we were all tethered to our landlines. And so I didn't know she'd be home, with the time zone, and it was a weekday. Anyway, I was like, what if I have to leave her a message? I'm not going to allude to what this is about because that's not something you leave in a message. But lo and behold, she answered. And I just asked her, when I tell this part, sometimes I cry. Well, I just asked her, "Are you sitting down?" And she said no. And I said, "Well, you need to be. One sec." And all I said was it wasn't an accident. Mind you, this is something that we never spoke of. So, 11 or 12 years had gone by and we rarely ever spoke of it. And it was just an accident, right? So it's not like it was something that was in conversation, but I just asked her, "Are you sitting down?" "No." "Well, you need to sit down. It wasn't an accident." And her response killed me. This is where I often get really emotional because it didn't take her long to respond. And she just said, "Oh my God, you're right." And I, PTSD. Your emotions are kind of a roller coaster. I was just instantly enraged. I was furious and I wanted to tell her to screw herself. Like, you were supposed to argue with me. Come on. But, we just sort of consoled each other. And it's been a wild ride. It was a wild ride before the day that we figured it out. And, and I really wasn't even 100% sure when I figured it out. It wasn't until she said, yeah, you're right, without even me explaining anything, that I knew 1,000%. And I was just like, ugh, I did not want to be right. You know how I say routinely, I do not like to be right sometimes. That was one of those times. I really, really, really didn't want to be right. So if you don't believe me that I don't like to be right sometimes, or, like my kids say, I'm right about everything all the time. I'm just like, I wish that I wasn't, and I'm sorry that I'm right about everything all the time. Not always, but almost always. As a mom, I can say that. As a person, I don't like to toot my own horn, because sure, I can be incorrect. And a lot of the stuff that we talk about here in true crime, it's allegedly, and it's my opinion. And again, I would love, love, love to be wrong. I would love it if Mica Miller was not red rummed by someone else. As much as unaliving by self is devastating, to me, unaliving by someone else's sinister, dark, evil actions is even worse. I mean, I've known people that have done both. And in my opinion, it's much more devastating to have someone's life taken intentionally at the hands of some evil scumbag. And then if they are to get away with it, it's unheard of. I don't think a lot of people understand that at least half of all red rums go unsolved. I'd say about that same percentage go unreported. They go down as accidental. They go down as unknown. They go down as fell down the stairs when no, they were pushed down the stairs. They go down as drowning when no, they were held underwater. Anyway, let me keep up with you guys. And yes, I caught you live. Oh, thank you, Sandra. Lovely to see you, girl. And yeah, I was going to actually post on my community page the screenshot of what we found online confirming the passing away of the biological parent that, I've had no contact with him for 40 years, I think, like zero. No, there was a couple of letters in there, but up until even a couple of years ago, I mean, he would write books and call them letters, maybe 50, 70 pages to me, to my sister. I wouldn't read them. My police officer husband would read them, and he would call the local department where they came from, and he would just handle it like law enforcement would handle it. And kind of leave me out of it, because I just didn't need the aggravation. I've had enough of that in my life. And, I feel like I can protect myself against his crazy to some extent. But it is reassuring to be married to the fuzz. And when it comes to that, and especially for him to know the ins and outs of like what can and can't be done when somebody sends you a rambling, quasi-threatening, completely insane 70-page letter that's not even addressed to you. It's just a Xerox copy of the one that he wrote addressed to someone else. So enough about me. How are you guys? So yeah, that's been huge the last 48 hours. First thing me and my daughters did was we were already going out to my mom's gravesite anyway to plant flowers. And we found this out right before we did that. And it was really nice, although I felt kind of bad for her that in the afterlife he might be harassing her some more. Hopefully not. But she kind of had a bleeding heart for him anyway, even though she kept her distance too. She would disassociate and forget the misery that went along with interacting with him. And sometimes she would forget and she'd interact with him, and then she'd remember how dangerous he was. I don't want to laugh. I mean, it's like laugh or cry. Anyway, that was the night before last. So we planted some flowers, and then we went to the yoga studio. I taught my 22-year-old and my 12-year-old the yoga routine that I've been devising. And my 22-year-old's been doing it a lot, and she loves it. But the 12-year-old had never done it, and she loved it too. I thought she would. And then last night, all four of us, my husband, both of the daughters, and me, went to the yoga studio, and I taught it to the three of them. So the only family member that's living in house right now that hasn't tried it, and I don't know that he will, is my almost 17-year-old son. So that's his prerogative, but I think he would like it too. And then my son, who turns 20 in a couple of weeks, will be going to visit him in DC with his wife. And they live on base. And let's see, I'll probably try to teach both of them the class. And I know his wife will like it because she took some yoga with me. I don't know if he'll like it, but probably. He probably really needs it because it makes you stiff. But the reason I'm talking about it, because, I don't want to bore you guys with my yoga anymore. I've done that enough. And I think I am at a place where I don't need that in order to succeed in this venture. I really had to put it on my YouTube channel to keep myself moving forward with it, so that I wasn't doing YouTube and not the yoga, or doing yoga and not the YouTube. But anyway, I have the instructions for the class on my videos, not the lives, but the videos. It's the last one. I just changed it from members only to public last night. I'm sorry, I thought that I had it public, so that you can go there and play it if you want, but it doesn't give you any of the visual cues of what it is to prompt you. If you know yoga, you'll know from the audio cues. And if you don't know yoga, I would say watch the one right before it. Like maybe it's a live, or maybe it's a unalive. But anyway, you can always email me too. And I'm trying to re-record a visual class so that I can put that up and people can do the routine if they like it, because I love it. It's so great. Anyway, I'm going to quit talking about that, and I'm going to continue talking about true crime, because that's my jam, and that's what brings us here together, right? I mean, yoga is my jam too, and health, and it's so lovely to see you guys. Thanks for being here. And hello. CB, nice to see you. Is there anybody that I missed? I think I have addressed everyone directly, individually. I really appreciate you guys. I can't imagine going through what you did, but the flip side is it was part of what made you who you are today. Sandra, I'm absolutely in full agreement with you all the way across the boards. Sometimes I can't believe it myself. And I wouldn't have it any other way, because it certainly makes me extremely compassionate. And I would say, again, not to toot my own horn, but it gives me a lot of insight into these cases. It really does, I feel. And I don't try to pretend that I know things that I don't know, but you got to trust yourself. You know what you know. And like when you see that look on someone's face and you see the brain moving, it's important to honor yourself. It's important to honor your own story, and it's important to honor other people's stories. So that's why I do this YouTube, and that's why I'm so happy to be here with you today and always. So where do I want to start with? So Tom Winslow is the name of the attorney who owns the 200 acres out there by the Lumber River State Park. And then Tom Winslow, not to be confused with Brian Wilson. Isn't that the same name as the guy from the Beach Boys? Brian Wilson, in this story in South Carolina, is the head of security of the Solid Rock Church, which I just think it's pretty weird to have a head of security with a small church. I mean, it's not a tiny church, it's 700 people in the congregation. But why do you need security and why do you need a head of security? Except that my first thought, as soon as I learned that, was that was just another way to launder money or to pay this guy, Brian Wilson, and probably he's being paid for something else. I mean, it hasn't been talked about, but I'm going to talk about it. That airplane kind of tips me off that they might have been trying to traffic some things. Big business. Big business. So, anyway, let me go over my notes and share with you. Christopher Skinner is the name of the guy in the wheelchair who drowned, who JP had hired Christopher Skinner's wife as his babysitter, I believe, and then was having an affair with her. And then Christopher Skinner confronted JP, said, "Stay away from my wife and kids." And then he ended up unalive in a swimming pool 2 weeks later. And then another few days or a week later, JP's officiating his freaking memorial service. Like, this guy's crazy. So I do want to talk a lot about his shenanigans right now, because he's just giving himself away just more and more. And let's see, I'm sorry, I've been watching a lot of videos and taking a lot of notes, and I have 4 notebooks. I will confess to that. But hopefully it'll make sense and not be just a train wreck of a disaster. Let's see. And I also really want to stay caught up with you guys because you're the best. Totally agree, Sandra. Yes. Hey, everyone. Bex, nice to see you. Oh, so yeah, these gaslighters. I mean, when we see JP, we probably wonder how somebody as intelligent and articulate as Mica or Allison, the ex-wife, how they could get involved with somebody like this. And he's a smooth talker. He's a smooth operator. And as much of a joke as he makes of himself on TikTok and in the pulpit, he is extremely intelligent and he is very conniving. So those are the things that I grew up with my very father, the highly intelligent, extremely conniving. And it's hard to stay ahead of them. So even when you are kind of onto them, they still know how to work you. I mean, they just play people like a piano. That's what they do. And Mica was definitely intelligent. She wasn't so much formally educated, but she was well educated. And I can only imagine what she could have done with her life had she never come across this scumbag who got his claws into her when she was 14, sorry. As far as we know, she was 14 when they met. And she was a little beauty queen. And it sounds like he probably had designs on her instantaneously. He told her that he only knew he was in love with her the day that he was performing the wedding services for her and her ex-husband, that it wasn't until that day. But when you think about it, it's like, okay, any bride is going to look radiant, hopefully, on their wedding day. And any pastor could appreciate that and just see that for what it is and not like go overboard with it. And she was 18. So he probably didn't want to admit to her that he was having the hots for her when she was basically jailbait. Because he was a lot older. I think he was 15 years older or 14 years, somewhere around there. Because her birthday is March 7th. She just turned 30. And I think he was 44 at the time of her passing, but that he's since turned 45, but I don't know his birthday. So anyway, there was a lot of confusion about if she might have met him when she was 10. And I still think she might have. who's to say that her family didn't travel to South Carolina way before they moved there? And I forget the year that his dad and or him built the Solid Rock Church, but they built that church. I believe that the Solid Rock Church is like a franchise because I know we have at least one here in Ohio. So I'm like, what is it, like the fast food of churches? I mean, I hope I'm not offending anybody if they're part of a Solid Rock Church congregation, but the one that I see in Ohio, it looks like that's a possibility. And what we've heard about the one that JP was the leadership of, that they had at least one ATM cash machine inside the church, if not more than one ATM cash machine inside the church. It's really twisted, is it not? And that's exactly what Jesus tried to resist. That was exactly what caused the conflict that he ultimately was crucified for, isn't it? I mean, in my estimation, in my understanding. So, he's digging his own hole, Jackie Bushable. I agree. So lovely to see you guys. So, let's get into it. We're already at 25 minutes, and I feel like I've just been kind of skirting around some things. You know, I'm really excited to share with you the things that I've learned about these cases. I'm really excited to share with you the things that I haven't felt free to share about my own trauma and family effery, shall we say. The whole coercive control and just the twistedness. This is what makes it so hard for anybody who doesn't understand what it's like to be manipulated like that, is that the person, as much as they're complete dirt bags, they also have a ton of redeeming qualities. That's why it's confusing. When I first knew that I needed to stay 100% away from my father and have zero communication, that was what pained me. And that's what I did a lot of therapy about, because I would say it would be so much easier if he was just pure evil. But he has so many redeeming qualities, it makes it really confusing to try to reconcile how he could do what he did. He was a very nurturing, nice man, believe it or not. But he was severely narcissistic personality disorder, borderline personality disorder. And I don't know what else I could diagnose him with for sure. I mean, he kind of had the malingering thing. He was extremely malignant. I almost said malignant, but yeah, you know, he didn't really abuse substances. He didn't really have addictions other than being a rageaholic. I'd say that was an addiction. But he was a control freak. And me and my sister were the two that were the focus of his control until we were in our early teens. So prior to that, when we were younger, it wasn't such a problem because we were so docile and easy to manage. But, you know, teenagers. And a single guy raising teenage girls. But I'll tell you, the reason that he was the single guy raising the teenage girls was because he threatened my mom's life and told her that if she even tried to get custody, that she would be, to use his words, I think he said, smeared all over the streets of Washington, D.C. That's where we were from. So she believed him. You know, he'd been very violent in their relationship. And like I said, she was just happy to get out alive. And she thought that he was so nurturing and caring with the babies that we would be safe with him, which is crazy. You know, we've had many conversations about it before she passed away and in her adult years. In hindsight, she realizes how nuts that was. But back then, it was, you know, the early 70s. Nobody knew a damn thing about domestic violence. And, you know, he threatened her all the time. I don't think he ever smacked her, but I don't know. I mean, he would break things in front of her. He would threaten her. He would, like, maybe punch the wall right next to her and miss her head by an inch, that type of thing. So I really honestly don't know for sure if she ever had a bruise or a mark on her from him. But again, that kind of thing just makes it more confusing. Um, you know, and the psychological abuse, the emotional abuse. Anyway, this is why I'm so inspired to cover the cases that I cover, like Mica's and Gabby's and the whole slew of others. Suzanne Morphew. I try not to talk about that case because that's still wide open, and I try to keep a lid on it until it's safe to talk about, because I'd hate to say anything that could compromise the integrity of the investigation. And I was thrilled when they found her remains. And that's another one. Barry Morphew is a dead ringer for my father. Dead freaking ringer. My father had slightly darker hair, but they are like identical twins. And when that case first happened, Mother's Day of 2020, and we learned about it like a day or two later, and then he came out with that 26-second pre-recorded message to the world and to Suzanne, like I knew instantly, like it was almost spooky. Like I really had to get a hold of myself, because I was like, he's not my father, but he is my father. I mean, I knew instantly exactly who he was. They are so much cut from the same cloth. Creepy AF. Yesterday I said how Scott Peterson and Ted Bundy remind me an awful lot of him. Thing about Barry Morphew, he don't seem that smart, does he? Anyway, let's talk about JP and his rants and his Spidey obsession. And when he talks in that first little TikTok thing and he keeps doing this, did you guys not think he was like shooting his little Spider-Man webs with his hand when he was spewing his lies? It was so weird. But then you have to remember that he had the Spidey thing right over his shoulder, and he loved wearing that costume. And I hear on the streets of YouTube that he charged $100 an hour to show up to your party in his costume. So you could like rent a pastor in a Spidey costume. I mean, the guy was just like pimping himself out, may I say it? Like in every way, shape, and form. I mean, just money grubbing. Money grubbing. Like as if the jet planes aren't enough, as if the $6 million in assets of the church are not enough. And then all that money talk that he did with his very last TikTok video. Where are my notes about that? The very last TikTok video, here we go. Thank you. He said so many weird things. So he said that he was giving Mica's family all this money, $2,500 plus $1,000, so $3,500 to help pay for their expenses to come for her, to see her in this crisis. Totally playing the victim, acting like he's paying for everything. JLR makes a really good point. Like Mica's mom was married, I think 7 times, and I think she was one of 7 siblings, or that she had 7 siblings. So how far is $3,500 going to go for 7 people? Spider-Man. Anyway, the dude is always playing the victim, as they do. And he's so theatrical, and he's so good at just spinning those webs. So he gets on these roles, and he's a pro because he does it on his stage and his services all the time. And he's talking about how he was trying for so long. How long did he say? He was trying for so long. I want to say 48. 48 people in the last 3 months. And he lists them like in order of how important they are, I'm pretty sure. Because first one is pastors, counselors, doctors, policemen, Jesus, friends, family, roommates, everybody you could possibly think of. That's a direct quote, you guys. Can you freaking believe it? That's in the beginning of his last little spiel. He'll probably come up with a new one today. Um, Annie Ruler, you are so sweet, girlfriend. And thank you again for the drip drop stickers. I got to put them on my thing so you can see them when I'm drinking. I think I have them somewhere in here, but I'd have to find them, and I don't want to ignore you guys. I think they're somewhere over there on a shelf or something. I don't know. I put stuff in a place and I'm like, oh, it's right there. I'll remember. And then, it takes me hours to find it. Happens with my cell phone every freaking day. Anyway, enough about me and my problems. Nice to see you, Annie. And B got deleted. Message was deleted by Nico. Was that an accident or was that necessary? Because isn't B a friend or foe? I don't know. I thought that B was friend, but who knows? If you want to type in there, Nico, and let us know, that's cool. Or if you want to text me. I lived like that in the 1980s and never, ever again. Yeah. Yeah. We finally changed custody from my father's custody to custody with my mom in, I think, 1982, something like that. 81. And wow. Wow, wow, wow. This guy is the true form of narcissism. Yep, 100%. Yeah. I mean, and he's such an actor. He's so theatrical. He's a drama mama, drama queen, drama llama, I like to say. There, get my necklace centered. Putting a 24-hour on people who retract their comment. Okay, no problem, Nico. Glad you got out of that Jackie Bush Bowl, not a hold, a timeout. Okay, cool. Thanks for the explanation. So, that dirt bag, I don't even like to say his name, JP, talks about, in I think it's his very first of these TikTok videos, where he talks about how anybody can say anything in an affidavit, right? And anybody can say anything in a police report. Okay, but most people are not pathological liars. And so they're only going to say things in a police report or an affidavit, or even in general. They're only going to say things that are true to the best of their knowledge, especially in an affidavit or a police report, because if you lie in those things, you can actually get in trouble. Honestly, people rarely do. I've seen law enforcement lie in those things, and it become abundantly clear that they lied in those things without any consequences at all. So for JP to say, well, anybody can say anything they want in an affidavit or a police report, but then he goes on to tell you the things that he has in the affidavits that he's done and how we have to believe him because he's got 350 pieces of solid evidence about that, he's innocent and somebody else did this to Mica. Like, really? Somebody did something to Mica? Huh. I thought you said she did this to herself. Okay. Note to self. But nobody ever asked him, like, hey, how do you know these things? Or do you have proof? He just instantly, too quickly, that's another way these liars give themselves away, too quickly, he's offering up 350 pieces of evidence. Except that there's zero. He doesn't actually offer anything up. Those are just words, right? Just pie in the sky. Like, go ahead. Start with one. Start with one if you got it, okay? And then when he talks about how he didn't believe that she was deceased and he was still thinking, she's going to text me tomorrow. Wait, they're married? And he's thinking not that he's going to see her, not that she's going to call him, not that she's going to walk in the door, not that he's going to walk in the door and she's going to be there. He's thinking that he's going to get a text from her. Again, that slip proves that was the only contact they had, pretty much, was texts, right? He also kind of confessed when he said, um, what was the word that he used? I've had more correspondence with her than anyone in the world, anyone on the planet. Correspondence? This is your wife. That's a weird word to use. But he slipped. He was admitting that the only contact that he's had with her for a very long time is correspondence, probably via email and text, right? That's what it sounds like to me, in my humble opinion. Um, and Sherry says basically what? Good job, Nico Mingo. Are those pumpkins? Are those Gabby Petito pumpkins? We love Gabby Petito pumpkins, right? All right. And the other thing that I love about this actor, I mean, he just gives himself away so many times over. When he was on the Justin on TikTok, when he was on that interview, he's acting like a little kid, like he's never been on social media platforms and like he didn't know how this stuff worked. Did you guys catch that? He's like, wow, are there people in there on their phones saying things in real time? Like, the guy had his own YouTube channel for his church that he was the master of. I'm pretty sure he knew all about this stuff. Like, a lot of his church services were on live, actually. He did a lot of lives. I've looked at their YouTube site. So anybody who hasn't yet looked at Solid Rock's YouTube site, they'll probably, I don't know if they'll make it private, but there's a lot of interesting videos of Mica singing and him playing the piano. For the most part, Mica looks so peaceful and so happy when she's singing. She was a great performer too, in a really, really good, positive way. But there's a couple, like from around 4 or 6 months ago, where she looks like she's struggling and she looks like she's been crying. And, you know, that would be right around the time of the hospitalization, right? Anyway, it's just kind of funny how he's trying to act like he's some kind of novice with technology when he's not. He knows. He knows this stuff. Okay. I think I got all of the things off of that page. This was the very last TikTok he did, and he's telling his story, or one of them. I think it's the last one. He's quoting himself saying, that he was talking to her family and that he said, I would love for you to see Mica's body. That's a weird thing to say. Like, you should be horrified, grieving, distressed. I would love for you to see Mica's body. I think he just gave himself away. He was like the cat with the dead mouse on the doorstep for the owners. Like, look what I did for you. See how much I love you? Sick and twisted freak. Then he's talking about the whole thing with the cremation and the manipulation and all that, and he's denying. And he says that she wasn't cremated until the 6th day, and that, again, these are his words, the body starts to smell at 3 days. He calls her the body. And what is he trying to say in so many words? Trigger warning, and forgive me. Is he trying to say she stunk? Like, that is so freaking disgusting. And that distancing language. Classic narcissist perpetrator. The distancing, and then the flipping the script and trying to make themselves look like the victim. Crazy people make sane people think they're crazy. Oh, Annie, you know all about it, girl. Crazy is as crazy does. That's stupid, right? Stupid is as stupid does. That's Forrest Gump. But one of my favorite lines I got to share is from As Good as It Gets. Jack Nicholson No thanks, I'm all full of crazy, not buying anymore. Take it somewhere else. That's such a good one. It comes in handy. Okay. As well as they make your friends think you are too, until they catch them in the act of setting you up in a lie. Yeah. When you tell your friends about the things that are going on, you do sound crazy because it's like crazier stuff than you could make up if you tried. And it's easier to think there's no way that's possible. Like you must just be exaggerating or something, right? And then they see it for themselves and then they're like, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. So, yeah, thanks. You really find out who your real friends are when you're in some kind of crisis like that, right? When you're dealing with that Annie ruler. Nico Mingo says, I might have acted too fast. I read the deleted comment and it was nothing bad. Oh, thanks for letting me know, Nico. You're really good with trying to keep the trolls down to a dull roar or eliminated completely. And I used to have that zero troll policy back in the day when I started this, but now I'm kind of like I have a little bit of tolerance for the trolls. Trolls are people too, right? Give the trolls a chance. No, I'm just kidding. Screw them all. But I do appreciate you being on the ball with that, and I also appreciate you sharing that was something that didn't need to be done. So thanks. I read it also, but wasn't going to say anything. Nico, OCB, you're cute. All right, so I'm wanting to talk about Kylie. I always want to talk about Kylie, but one of the things that upsets me the most in Kylie Rodney's case, and there's so many things that upset me the most in Kylie Rodney's case, one of the things that I tried to give an allowance for, and that was really naive, was her very own mother not searching for her. I mean, if your child was missing, would you be able to not search for them? Would you be going out to eat? I mean, I know that was a couple of weeks in, but still, you're not going to have an appetite, let alone want to be out in public eating. Sushi. Remember the sushi connection? JP Ultra was seen eating sushi with that Christopher Skinner's widow 4 days after his spouse passed. Like, I really think that having sushi, it's a decadent thing. It's an elegant thing. It's like living high on the hog. Not everyone can afford sushi. Not everyone likes sushi, but a lot of people do. You don't have to eat fish to enjoy sushi. There's lots of sushi food that's not fish, that's just vegetables and rice and, tempura fried shrimp, stuff like that. Like people think, oh, raw fish. No, there's a lot of it is raw fish. Probably half of it's not raw fish. So the baked eel is really good. I don't do seafood at all anymore, but when I did, I loved the baked eel. I loved the tempura shrimp sushi rolls. I still love the cucumber rolls, the avocado rolls, the vegetable rolls. Um, there's a lot of good food with sushi, and it's delicious, and it's healthy, and it's expensive. And when you go out for sushi, it's a special occasion. So Lindsay was going out for sushi at lunch in Tahoe area, like Truckee, where it's got to be $90 to go out to lunch, I would say, for two people to sushi in Truckee. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you could do it for 50. But it's expensive. And then for JP to be caught having sushi with the girlfriend, alleged girlfriend, 4 days after the tragedy of Mica losing her life, again, that's like a celebration. And then you see the look on his face. He does that duper's delight thing all the time, doesn't he? It's gross. Who else thinks that he reminds them a lot of Chris Watts. I keep wanting to say it, and I get so caught up in saying a whole bunch of other things I forget. Doesn't JP have a lot of Chris Watts's similar characteristics? Being disgusting is the top one, in my humble opinion. Godzilla roll, yum. Make me hungry for sushi, but can't afford it. LOL. Case in point, CB. That's hilarious. That is great. Too funny. Yeah, we love Kylie Rodney, don't we? Absolutely love Kylie Rodney. And so her mom didn't look for her. It didn't even seem like any of the searching people that were allegedly searching were actually looking for her. They were spending their time with pressers. They were spending their time flipping people off. Oh, wait, no, that was the celebration of life. Everything was so off about that entire case. From go, the way her frenemies would say, we lost our friend is missing. What do you mean you lost your friend? Like your cell phone, the way you lose your cell phone? Like, well, I set it down over here, but now I can't find it. So what, you just like set your friend down over here at the party and then she's missing? Like, that was some weird language. Like, you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't jump to that conclusion. In the event that what they were saying had any truth, you would just wonder, where'd she go? What's she up to? When's she coming back? How come we can't get a hold of her? You wouldn't say we lost her. Saying that we lost her kind of alludes to like losing somebody to being unalive. It's also very definitive, like that you lost them and you're not going to be able to get them back. So these people give themselves away with their language, and for that we can thank them, right? Absolutely. Let's see, the Coercive Control Act that Mica Miller's attorney is acting on, getting that signed into a law. That is so awesome that the attorney and the family is being so intelligent to try to move forward with that. Sadly, I think that they see the writing on the wall of how freaking difficult it's going to be to overturn the cause of death on her death certificate. It's going to be really hard to overturn that. And it's not to say that it can't happen, but they're dealing with corrupt government officials, I believe, too. So it's going to be a huge uphill battle. And nothing that they do is going to bring her back. We know that, and they know that. So they're trying to move forward as positively as they can, doing things to make themselves feel better in the moment, doing things to make the future brighter. And, you know, they might be resigned to knowing that JP's going to dig his own grave and that there's not a lot that they can do to help grease the wheels for that. He's protected by law enforcement. It was just last night that I was mentioning he might have a judge or a magistrate in his bloodline family locally. I do want to mention JP's silly shirts. You know, I don't like to body shame any of us. None of us need that. But I think JP deserves to be body shamed, and especially his goofy, weird printed shirts. Ill-fitting, goofy, weird printed shirts. It's like he thinks he's too sexy for her shirt. You know, like they're kind of tight, so they kind of show off his skinny arms. It's like he's 45. Like, those are the kinds of button-down shirts that like 19-year-old boys wear. You know, the tight fitting. He's quite the weirdo. And he, you know, talks about his silence is just wisdom and self-control. Like, obviously the man has no self-control. If he had self-control, he wouldn't be making the videos. And if he had self-control, he wouldn't have been harassing Mica the way he was. I want to say that on that video footage, when she says, she's videotaping him at the gas station, and she says, just walk away. And he's threatening to put up the photographs of her topless. And you got to point out that that was his creation. He forced her to get those implants, and then he's wanting to reveal them to the world on public social media. And she says, just walk away, just walk away. And the way he walks, he's kind of like a sidewinder. Like, he looks so crazy in that video that she made of him. He looks kind of like he's wearing his pajama pants and maybe slippers, and that he's just completely out of his freaking gourd. Do you agree? Put a 1 in chat if you agree. Put a 2 in chat if you don't know what I'm talking about. Let's see. How long in between the passing of girlfriend's hubby and Justice for Mica passing? I think it was a couple of years, Nico. Does anybody know? I know I sometimes wonder that too, and I keep meaning to look it up. It might have been 2021, but it might have been more recent. I'm not sure. So if anybody knows, please share. Sidewinder, yep. Wow. What is that handle? That is so wild. JP doesn't sound much like a pastor. Well, I think they've stripped his pastor status from him now. And I think that they've cut all ties with him from the church that his dad and him founded, which says a lot. When you lose the thing that you invented, that speaks volumes. Because again, he hasn't been convicted of anything yet. He hasn't even been charged with anything yet. But to me, that says that they know he's guilty. Absolutely. I mean, they probably feel like such fools too, because they probably did fall for his tricks, and now they're just kicking themselves. Annie Ruler says, just trust me. JP thinks people look at him for his body. My narc thought people stared in envy, not because he was acting ridiculous for whatever the theme of the moment was. Narce and attention. That's great, Annie. Yeah, and I do want to mention something else that's kind of tricky to talk about on YouTube, which is his posture. Okay, again, I'm not body shaming. I'm blaming the perp, because a lot of times when he's giving his sermons, and his pants are kind of tight too, and he really sticks his crotch out, reminding me a lot of, I don't know, the name of this band is Spinal Tap, Tenacious D. I mean, he's sticking his junk out there, his package. There we go, his package. Have you guys noticed that? Like, he's all about the package, like front and center. He's probably got a sock in his pants. Right? He's probably got the tighty whities with a big rolled up pair of socks in there. Well, we know he has a big truck, so we know what that says, right? And Nico says, I thought it was a couple of weeks ago. No, I think it was a while back, but I could be incorrect. And also, what's interesting to me is, I think Susie is the name of Christopher Skinner's widow, right? Susie Skinner. I thought she was like a physical therapist. But if she was also JP's babysitter, I'm thinking probably not a physical therapist, maybe like a physical therapist assistant. But still, you know, if she had a disabled husband and they had one child, I think, and she was trying to keep the income up for the whole family, then yeah, I mean, a physical therapist, she would probably make enough money and she wouldn't have the time to be a babysitter. But as a physical therapist assistant, she probably would need more money. So Mary Thomas says, I believe it was 4 years ago. Annie Ruler says 1. I thought it was a couple of weeks ago. Sherry Pastor in wanting room, listening to him, believing him, etc. I think you mean waiting room, the wanting room. That's cute. Between not ago. 4 years between. Okay, thank you. Gotcha. Well, that's good to know in regards to JP losing his pastor. Yeah, yeah, I think it was just in the last week. I know it's hard to keep up. Oh, and I also wanted to share with you guys that he was on the cover of his local newspaper this past Sunday. I'm going to try to get a screenshot of that newspaper cover and use it on my thumbnail so that you can see it. It is not flattering, to say the least. Because when I first heard that he was on the cover of his local newspaper, I thought, oh, goodness, what is this? I mean, we all know that the news can be propaganda, but no, they're talking about him having like a double life, basically. Um, and yeah, I want to get to talking about that hideous situation in Georgia with the hideous history of Lowndes County, if I'm saying it right, and all of those lynchings and all of the racism and that history. I think really was like gasoline on the fire of this crazy situation that happened with Kendrick and those bellboys, the sons of the FBI agent. And yeah, I dug up some stuff that I had never seen before in the last 24 hours, or 12 hours even. I only seriously follow Kylie and Maddie Soto. Hey, Fred. I can't follow Maddie Soto. I'm too sick over that. Other cases I have only slight knowledge of. Yeah, the Maddie Soto case is like vomit worthy. The pastor's posture. Maggie's case is disturbing, Fred. Maggie, yeah. Madeline Soto. It's beyond disturbing. And yeah, the mom is looking guiltier and guiltier all the time. Yes, Susie, she is a physical therapist. That's how she met Chris. Oh, and he was such a cute man, wasn't he? I mean, even wheelchair bound, he looked very attractive and appealing. He looked like he had a radiant personality. Do you know how he got in a wheelchair? Was he like a victim of a car accident or something? And CB says Maddie. Yeah. The tinfoil wrapped cucumber in the airport security spinal tap. Thank you, Nico. I forgot about that. Oh, I love it. You're the bomb. You guys know the movie. The name of this band is Spinal Tap, and they're going through the metal detector, and the guy has to take the cucumber out of his pants that's wrapped in tinfoil. Oh my God, you are cracking me up, girlfriend. Mica was babysitting for JP and first right. Exactly, Mary Thomas. That's what I'm saying is there's a pattern there. Mica was babysitting and then Susie babysat for him too, is what I heard anyway. Maybe it's not accurate, but that's what I heard. I'm not up to date on Mica case. And Sandra says he definitely is not trying to hide it. Yeah, Sandra. Well, he's probably got one of those tinfoil wrapped cucumbers in there, like Nico said. It looks interesting, but been following Kylie or Karen Reed trial. CB, crooked cops interest me. Yeah, they interest me too. That case is wackadoodle, and I haven't been able to invest the time and energy into it because honestly, Karen Reed seems wackadoodle too, and that would make her an even better target to set her up. And usually, I think that perps do choose easy targets, so maybe that's why they. I don't know. When is that trial going to wrap up? We're in day like 25, aren't we? Like 24, 25. It seems like it's dragging on for 1,000 years. Like, what is up with that? CB, that Read trial mass insane. Wait, I can't read that. Why is it a typo? Yeah, that Read trial miss insane. Typos make it really hard, and so does the glare with my glasses. Poor Karen and her medical issues all over text now the world. Oh, yeah, that sucks. Because, yeah, she definitely looks crazy from a distance because I haven't paid the closest attention to that case. Um, and it also seems like, I mean, yeah, it seems crazy, absolutely crazy. Chris was in car wreck, 20 some years old. Thank you, Mary Thomas. That's what I figured. So sad. So that's how she met her husband. Interesting. Um, Spinal Tap original movie Nico. Yeah, Annie Roller. You know the one. I hear that they're getting ready to release another Spinal Tap too. And then the characters in Small Soldiers, that's Spinal Tap. Spinal Tap is a great movie for anybody who hasn't seen it. It's hilarious. No, she was Chris's physical therapist and married Chris. Right, right. I was following the Daybell case and didn't get in the Reed or Mica case initially. Yeah, the Daybell case is another one like Maddie Soto that it's like such a train wreck. I try to look away. And, some of these cases, I want to say too that I am sucked in by the cases that I feel like really need to be exposed. So when it looks like people are getting justice already, like in Maddie Soto's case, thank goodness, it looks like justice is happening. Then I don't feel so compelled to cover it. It's the cases like Kylie's where there's zero justice that I'm compelled to start my own YouTube channel. Right? I wasn't following the Daybell case. Yeah. And the DG, is that DG or OG, the original gangster? Or Dollar General? Which is it? Okay. Where are we? We're already over an hour and it is after 5:30. So let me wrap up. But before I do, talking about if I can find the notes, I don't want to be talking without the notes because a lot of it is very, very touchy stuff with that history of the town, the county that Kendrick Johnson is from. So Brian Bell was dating the girl that they've kind of scrubbed her name from the internet, but I feel like her name needs to be out there because she's in great danger being married to him now. So they've been married for 2 years. They're coming up on their 2-year wedding anniversary right about now. And her first name is Taylor, and I think I put her last name in the description from last night's video. I put a photograph of the two of them in the thumbnail. I'm not trying to out her to put her in danger. I'm trying to out her to get her to wisen up and go to the authorities and let the cat out of the bag and get protection, because being married to that guy, I think she's going to end up like Mica. That's what I think, in my opinion. And there's just so much there. Again, the Kendrick Johnson case is still active. The family is trying to sue for $1 billion or $2.5 billion. And they're trying to sue the FBI, the Lowndes County Sheriff's Department, the medical examiner, and I'm not sure. They should be suing the school too, in my opinion, big time. But I'm sure their lawyer knows what they're doing. What a horrible case. And yeah, I don't think I'm finding those notes. But one of the things that I had not realized with Kendrick Johnson's cause of unaliving, I knew it was blunt force trauma to the neck was the revision in the autopsy, but it seems that it was a 45 pound dumbbell that was used as a weapon. And it really makes me wonder if the boys invited him into the gym to lift weights or something like that and said, I'll spot you, and then didn't. So, and then if he was asphyxiated like that, then they could try to use that asphyxiation as the cause of his demise, which is exactly what they did try to say was the cause of his unaliving in the initial autopsy report. So, that he crawled into that giant mat rolled up and asphyxiated in there when there's blood and beating. His mother put a photograph of him out in the public, you guys. A photograph of him, I think, after he was exhumed. I mean, it's bad. It's like Emmett Till. So I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm going to go ahead and wrap up since we're already over an hour. And seeing red flags is here. Giglio Island unaliving case is disgusting too. I know. I can't look at it. I just can't. But again, also because it looks like justice is happening there. Yeah, I look away from that train wreck every time. I'm just like, no thanks. Ugh. If you haven't seen anything on Mica's final moments and don't understand the concern, watch Christina Randall, beginning with part 1 of 3, where you can hear for yourself the fake 911 call of Mica. Thank you, Nico. Yeah, I love Christina Randall. She's great. She does a really good job. I also love that Bailey Syrian. Right before I came on, I was listening to one that she just dropped today about Disneyland, not Disneyland, but Disney fairy tales. Creepy AF. That girl's such a great storyteller. They both are. Let's see. Get caught up with you guys and then sign off. Good to see you. We need to focus on those who need justice. The cases with national attention are hopefully getting their just desserts. Really bad case. Scary. Yeah. Are you talking about the one up there in New York? The beach, the island, Giglio, or however you say it. That guy is so disgusting. Such a monster. And yeah, I mean, I'd say that JP is just as disgusting of a monster, too. As much as he can be a good looking man at times, he also looks like the devil himself at times, don't you think? I mean, just, ugh, he is just nauseating, and it's so frightening. I can multitask cases, don't get much sleep. Yeah, I like to really study each case. I like to learn as much as I possibly can. So I try to limit the number of cases that suck me in. Sometimes it's hard. Like I kind of am resistant with every case. Like, okay, I'll pay attention, I'll get the gist of it, but I don't want to like get into it. So like Mica's case was one immediately that I just was like, yeah, we got to check this out because this sounds sus AF, and it sounded like there were just way too many connections, way too many coincidences, and way too much corruption that even with the best attorneys and the best focus and all of that, it's going to be really, really hard. Why does my necklace keep wanting to go over to a side? It probably doesn't bother you guys, but it bothers me when I look up and see it. So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up. I am going to be trying to do another tape recorded yoga class because I keep, making subtle changes to it. And so, like I said, the most recent one that I have is just me reading the instructions with the cool chakra tower. And you can see the evolution of all this stuff. It gets so busy. I try to take stuff out and pitch it and do the less is more. And then I end up putting stuff back in there. But I'm going to continue with that cycle because that's just who I am. And I'm just going to thank you guys so much for being here and participating in the chat. And if you're on the replay crew, I appreciate you as well. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button if you don't mind. And hopefully I will see you guys tomorrow at an earlier time in the day. What is tomorrow? Tomorrow's Thursday. No, today's Thursday, right? Tomorrow's Friday. So yeah. And yeah, weekends are just almost impossible for me to get videos made with the activity going on in this household. Mica case is so disturbing. It hits home for me in so many ways. Yeah, me too. Absolutely. And just so sad, all of the people that he has victimized. And, he really victimizes the church too. And I've said this before, but at a time when churches really can't afford to lose members of their congregations. The churches are like at an all-time crisis of people don't go to church. Even if they're members of church, they don't show up. And when they don't show up, it just dwindles the whole thing. And he's just like killing it. He's just like finishing it off is what I fear. And I think that's what Mica feared too. And that's why she was trying to go about the divorce as intelligently and as delicately as she should, as she could. And, she knew she needed to exercise a lot of caution, but she probably didn't believe that he would actually do it. And yeah, I said it. I think he actually did it. I don't know that he was there present, but I think he orchestrated it, if nothing else. And of course, motivated by money. I can only do about 2 at a time. Idaho Fort and Daybell kept my brain loaded. I know the Idaho 4 is so bad, and Drip Drop keeps putting out videos every so often, and his videos are great. There's a few other content creators that I really appreciate the work that they do on that case, like Mama D 1111 True Crime and Divine Pathways too. So you guys remember last night when I said, what's this note to myself about Kate that she hasn't been seen? I was so tired and brain dead. As soon as I wrapped up, I was like, oh, Kate Middleton, dummy. So yeah, you guys, the Kate Middleton thing looks so weird. She is not coming public. These weird messages from her are with typos. Give me a freaking break. As if a royal is going to have a typo. What in the world? It makes me think that there's these Disney characters, like the dumb evil stepsisters that are typing up these messages saying, oh look, we'll put this out in the public and say it's from Kate, and they're just oh, like the thugs and the rescuers or something, like the thugs and the 101 Dalmatians. Just these dumb fools. What is going on there? What in the world is going on with those royals? Have they just lost it worse than ever? Oh man, I hope she's okay, but I get the idea that she is the furthest thing from okay, and that it's not due to cancer. Again, this is one of those times where I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm absolutely incorrect. See you tomorrow, Jazz. Agree with you, Jazz. See you in Red Flags. Idaho 4 got way too complicated and confusing. I can't figure out what is really going on. Well, I think what's really going on is that the authorities and the institution are behind it, and they're going to do everything they can to protect themselves. And they have the money, they have the connections, they have the authority that they can do that. And that's the problem. So unreal. The picture of Charles says it all, in my opinion. Oh, the painting with the red, that is insane. That is absolutely insane. So on that, you guys, let's sign off. Let's say our little mantra of take care of yourself, eat well, eat nourishing food, high protein, and your produce, drink your water, get your exercise, get your rest, be kind. What else? Love and light. I can't believe when I forget to say love and light, because that's kind of my tag, right? Yes, creepy AF, absolutely, 100%. And yeah, the whole thing with Idaho 4 is creepy AF too. Like the rain on the dumpster. Like, give me a break. And Buddy the dog being filleted. Give me a break, people. Give me an absolute break. And then things like Caden Young and Brent Kopaka and um, Hudson. What's his name? Hudson. I want to say Hudson London, but that's not it. The guy who wound up in the creek. That wasn't even 6 months before, was it? Maybe 10 months before. I think it was like January of 2022. Was it Hudson London? What's the guy's name? You guys remember? The frat brother, the Sigma Chi frat brother that he was a freshman, right? And Ethan was a freshman that year too. So he would have known him really well. Hudson Lundow, is that it? Something like that. But yeah, those police departments around there are so creepy. The Pullman PD, the Wazoo PD, and their habitual violence against women, the assaults of the most intimate, violating type, and then the department's willingness to cover for those officers. I mean, it's despicable, absolutely despicable. But this whole thing with gang stalking, you guys, let me wrap up on that because I just discovered that channel, the Freedom Voice Online, the channel that the guy who started it because he was being gang stalked and he was trying to educate other people that were being gang stalked about it. So I've been trying to learn more. And one of the weird things that the gang stalkers do has to do with the bright lights. And it made me think of Brett Payne flashing that flashlight into Xana's eyes when she's at her own home. She's being cooperative and polite and obviously scared and intimidated. And he had no need to be flashing his big flashlight in her eyes like that. But the police going to that house all the time fits into that whole gang stalking thing, you guys. Oh, creepy, 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 creepy. And yeah, the entities that do gang stalking are gangs, cults, governments. So on that, see you on the next one. Thanks again for joining me. Love and light. And yeah, seeing red flags. Oh gosh, put a link to the channel. I will look it up. I know someone who has been gang stalked. I will. I'll put the links in today's description too, but they're also in yesterday's description. So they're already there in yesterday's description. It usually takes me at least an hour, if not more, to get all that stuff for the one that I'm talking in and wrapping up. I try to get it in there as quickly as I can, but it just depends on things that are going on. So it's already in yesterday's description. So you can go there right now and find it. And yeah, the name of the channel again is Freedom Voice Online. And his last two videos are about Mica. So they're really good. And I think that he's kind of the one who planted that seed, and it's kind of spreading like wildfire right now as we speak across the internet that, yeah, she was totally being gang stalked. And you can see that. And she knew it. And yeah. So is it a cult? Is JP a cult leader? It certainly looks like that's a distinct possibility. All right, you guys, love and light. See you soon. Have a great rest of your day. Be well.